It started with a box we maybe should have never opened, and inside, a secret my grandfather took to his grave. After my grandmother passed away a couple of years ago back in Germany, we began clearing out her apartment. Years and decades of memories full of boxes. And my father took everything home, and little by little, we started sorting through it all. And hidden deep inside one of these boxes was something that would change everything we thought we knew about our grandfather's past. We found a bundle of old letters written in French addressed to my grandfather. We didn't know that he spoke fluent French, but even more surprising, the woman who wrote to him didn't address him by his real name, Helmut. She called him André, and that was the moment that everything changed for us, and we were wondering, who is our grandfather really? Helmut was born in 1919 in Gera, Germany. It was also the place where the 7th Panzer Division, later known as the legendary Ghost Division, was initially based. According to the document we received from the Berlin State Archive, we discovered that he was actually part of the Ghost Division during World War II. The documents also show that his last known location was in southern France, and after that, he was listed as missing since December 25th, 1942. Had he deserted? We're still trying to translate all the letters, and we reached out to a few people who might be able to help. And this all happened already over a year ago, before I even posted my first video on Instagram. But since then, a lot of strange things keep on happening. So, the letters were from a woman in Paris. In one of those letters, she warned my grandfather to be cautious with their correspondence. There was also a photograph of her. And it seemed that this woman wasn't just someone he met. She might have been helping him, perhaps even hiding him. One of the letters hinted that her family had later been imprisoned, possibly accused of collaboration or for assisting members of the French resistance. Was my grandfather part of the resistance himself? Did he take the name André to hide his identity? We still don't know. And little by little, fragments of old family stories began to resurface, and some relatives recalled that my grandfather once called his father from Marseille. And shortly after that, German soldiers showed up at his father's house demanding to know where his son was. And apparently, his father told them. We don't know why he turned in his own son. Maybe he was politically opposed to his son's beliefs, or maybe he was forced, threatened, maybe even trying to save his own life. We'll never know for sure, but after that call, Helmut was gone. When we discovered my grandfather's old military map, we noticed that some French cities were underlined, including Marseille and Toulon. And that would make sense, because in November 1942, the Ghost Division took part in Operation Lila in Toulon, and was later stationed in the region between Marseille and Avignon. And on my last trip to Germany, in one of those boxes, we found his certificate of discharge. We didn't even know he was in American war captivity. My grandfather never spoke about the war or those years. But what's interesting is that after his release from American captivity on July 17, 1945, he stayed in Heidelberg until July 22nd. But then, curiously on August 30th, he traveled to Rostov, a small village where the US presence near the Soviet border. And it was definitely an unusual way to travel and would have been a detour for him if he only wanted to go home. Because from Rostov, he continued to Gera, his birthplace, where his father still lived. So the route suggests more than a casual visit. And if he was involved in some kind of intelligence work, it could have been a way to carry out a mission while appearing to go home. Interestingly, Rostov would later become the site of Point Alpha, one of the most important US observation posts during the early Cold War, serving as a hub for intelligence gathering and monitoring the border with the Soviet zone. And while this was all years after my grandfather's visit, it shows that Rostov occupied a strategically significant position that the Americans had already recognized. And the Rostov stamp on his discharge certificate is a small but tantalizing clue in a journey full of unsolved puzzle pieces for us. And then something really strange happened. So a few months ago, after we already started researching and trying to translate the letters and reaching out to people, I got a message on my Instagram from a blank account. And the message was in German. The person said something like that they were interested in my life and that of my family for a long time for personal reasons. I blocked them because I had a stalker in the past and I wasn't taking any chances. But then a few weeks later, I received a letter, a real letter sent to my actual home address in New York. It was also in German and addressed to me as Jennifer, and not Jean, the name I use for my online presence because of the crazy stalker I had in the past. and the letter was signed with only 2 initials, WL. And the writer says, I'm translating, "I knew your grandfather. I thank him for more than words can express. Now it's time for you to know what's long been hidden. And if I wanted to discover what had long been hidden, I needed to follow the traces of the past and go to the oldest German bakery in New York." And that's what I did. I took my husband, and there they gave me even more letters. But this time it was addressed to a woman named Clarisse, and it mentioned an escape plan written in German and signed with the name André. Now there are still so many questions. Did my grandfather really write the letter to Clarisse? And who's reaching out to me now as his past begins to resurface? And these questions wouldn't leave me alone. They follow me home day and night. And my family and I were still trying to piece it all together, one letter, one clue at a time. But the more we uncover, the clearer it becomes. This story isn't finished. It's just starting.